I think I've lost my mind. Everything was fine until I walked out of work this afternoon. Dan, my cubemate, and I were walking out of the building and talking about our plans for the weekend. We had been pulling overtime, and one of our clients was being more needy than usual, and we agreed that lots of drinking was the only sensible plan for the weekend. As I stepped outside though, I had to double check if I was drunk already. There was a huge person in the sky. At least it looks like a person. The general shape of it was humanoid, but it towered over the horizon, almost like it was actually out in space just floating over the world. I stopped dead in my tracks. Dan looked back when he realized that I wasn't beside him anymore, and he saw me staring up at the sky with a look of horror. "You alright?" he asked, looking concerned. "You see that, don't you?" I stammered out, still not believing what I was seeing. "See what, man? There's a few clouds, but it doesn't look like any rain is coming this way." "No, the person. There's a huge person up there on the horizon. You seriously don't see it?" I couldn't fathom how he couldn't see it. It was almost blocking out the sun, and it had a big toothy grin on its face, just surveying the world. "Have you been sleeping okay, man? I think all this overtime is really stretching you thin." Dan looked worried. I know that I sounded insane. Yeah, probably just staring at that monitor all day. Got my mind going crazy." I dropped the subject and I kept going. As I got in my car, I looked back over to where the thing was. It was still there, now staring off upwards into whatever sky was above it. "I'll see you Monday. I'm just gonna go get some sleep," I shouted out the window as I started the engine. The thing hovered there as I went through the rush hour traffic to get back home. All the stop and go gave me time to really get a good look at it. It looked more and more uncanny as time went on. Instead of two eyes, it had multiple. The entire top of its face was covered in eyes, some small, some huge. There was no nose, just what looked like a slit ran down half of its face until it came to the mouth. The mouth was the terrifying part. It was wide open, almost slack-jawed, and full of teeth. I don't mean like a bit of a toothy smile, like some kid who had just gotten their first adult teeth and wanted to show them off. This thing had rows of teeth. It looked like a shark, almost with row after row of sharp, pointed teeth. They went around its entire mouth. Not just top and bottom. It had teeth on all sides. Like a freaking garbage disposal for small planets. The damn thing was so huge that I could only see it from the chest up. The rest had disappeared over the horizon. I finally got home and night had fallen, but the giant hadn't shifted at all. By this time, I'm creeped the hell out. I decide that I'm just going to go inside, close my curtains, and go to sleep. I'm just tired, right? This is all going to be gone in the morning. I take one of my sleeping pills and I'm out in half an hour. The only thing I can remember about my dream that night is that the thing in the sky was picking people up and dropping them into its mouth. They were so far away, but I could still hear their screams as they were slashed to bits by its teeth. I woke up the next morning and I opened my window, bracing myself to see the creature towering above the city outside. But to my relief, it wasn't there. I can't tell you just how relieved I was. The last thing I needed was a psychotic break to put me out of commission. It was a Saturday and it was my first day off in almost 2 weeks. I made some breakfast and I decided to go out and browse around the library for something new to read. As I stepped out of my house and I got into my car, I looked out above the house. My bedroom window faced the driveway, and I didn't think to look out any of the other windows before I stepped out of the house. It was still there. It had just shifted to the other side of the Earth. Or maybe the Earth had just rotated to the point where it was in a different position. It stood there, the same expression on its face from last night. I saw a plane fly by in the sky, barely brushing by the shoulder of the creature. It moved one of its many eyes to get a look at the plane, and a different eye focused on it as it moved by the creature. With one swift motion, it bent over and it crunched down on the plane. There was a small plume of smoke and a flash of fire, and then it was gone. I couldn't believe my eyes. How many people were on there? How many people just lost family members to that thing? I had to do something, so I called 911.
Operator, what's your emergency?
A woman's voice, polite yet urgent. An airplane just blew up in the sky, and there's a giant creature up there. It almost looks like a person, but it just ate a plane.
Sir, I'm going to need you to please calm down. Now, you said that a plane exploded.
Yes, not really exploded, it was more eaten. The thing in the sky just leaned over and swallowed it.
Sir, this line is for emergencies only. You know that faking an emergency call is a crime, right?
I'm not faking it. Those people on that plane are dead. Don't you care about that?
Sir, I'm going to disconnect the line. Please, only call us if there's a real emergency.
The line went dead. Shit. What do I do? Dad couldn't see yesterday, and the emergency operator obviously hadn't heard anything about it. I looked back up at the thing on the horizon. It had turned and it was facing my direction now. As I stared at it, it looked down towards the ground. Every single eye on its face looked right at me. I know that it sounds crazy that I could tell from that distance, but I know that it was looking right at me. It could somehow sense that I realized this, because the grin on its face got even wider. I don't know how long I sat there screaming. All I know is that the next thing I knew, there were two guys in suits outside of my car window. One was knocking on the glass while the other had his gun drawn. "Please, step out of the car and come with us, sir," the man knocking on the glass said. The other one lowered his gun slightly and gave me a look as if to say that it was okay. "We do not want to use force, but we have been authorized to do so if you do not comply." "What the hell is going on?" I said as I opened my door. "Who the hell are you? Can you see that thing?" "No, sir, we cannot. However, we can take you to someone that has answers for you. The things you are seeing are real." The one with the gun looked concerned, almost like he was sorry for me. The other guy just acted like he wanted to be done with it all. "Fine, as long as I know that I'm not crazy." I walked over to the car with them. One opened the back door and motioned for me to get in. We drove for what seemed like hours. I knew we were a good ways outside of the city by the time we had pulled up to a small shack off a dirt road. I looked up at the horizon as I got out of the car. Over the tops of the trees, I could barely see the top of the giant's head. One of the eyes on top was still looking right at me. "Come on, follow me please," said one of the men. "So, you're going to murder me now, right?" I quipped. I was losing my shit but trying to remain a facade. "We're not in the business of murdering, sir. And quite the opposite, actually." As I walked into the small shack, I realized that it wasn't small at all. Passing through the door, there was a panel on the wall. This was just an elevator. The agent stood in front of me in the lift as one hit the button, and slowly, we descended down into the depths. When the lift stopped and the door opened, there was a small room with a desk set up next to the wall and a door leading out of the left. An older man was sitting behind the desk, reclined back in a chair that looked like it would tip at any second. "Sir, we have the cognizant in question," one of the men said. The man in the chair almost fell back in surprise and then sat forward and looked at me. "Yes, please come in and have a seat. How are you doing today?" he asked. I've been better. I'm pretty sure that none of this is real though. I looked around, trying to think of how I could get out if I needed to. It felt good though, almost relieving that I couldn't see that thing looking at me. "I can assure you that this is all real. You're very much awake and that creature in the sky is as real as you and I are." The man smiled at me, as if we were just talking about something as simple as the weather, and not a death giant in the sky. "You mean I'm not crazy and you can see that thing too?" I asked in disbelief. I still couldn't fully grasp what was happening. If I'm not crazy, then what the hell is going on? "Not crazy, I promise. I personally cannot see that creature, but I do know a few others that can. I'm honestly surprised you've slipped under our radar for this long. We usually catch you guys much earlier in life." "You guys? What the hell is going on? Can you please just stop being cryptic and tell me why the hell I'm not crazy?" I was getting tired of all this runaround. There's something really messed up going on and this guy is treating it like a freaking Sunday brunch. "Well, I can explain everything to you, but first, I think that you'd better have a seat. Would you like some coffee? It's quite a long story." I sat down in front of him, and I listened as he laid everything out. "Where are my manners? My name is Ronald, pleased to meet you." The man extended his hand towards me. I took it hesitantly. He had a firm grip and he shook my hand as if he was an old friend. "So, are you going to tell me why life has gotten so scary in the past day?" I asked him. "Yes, that's going to be quite the story. So, you've seen our ocularly blessed friend outside. I thought you said that you couldn't see him. How do you know what he looks like?" "I told you, I have friends that can, and one of them is quite the gifted artist." At this, he pulled out a paper from the desk drawer, and on it was the near-perfect sketch of the creature that I had been seeing. Just the thought of it sent a shiver down my spine. "Now, as I've said, you're not the only one of your kind running around out there. About 1% of the Earth's population can see these things. We call them aberrations. They pop up every so often, and our job is to take care of them before they cause any major damage. This one already ate a plane. How do you not stop that sooner?" And now I was getting angry. If they knew that these things were coming, how did they not take care of it sooner? It had been there for almost an entire day before it took a plane out of the sky. "Yes, well, that one is going to weigh on all of us for a while. The thing is, we've never seen one this large. Usually the aberrations that appear on a much smaller scale. Think your typical Hollywood monster movie. That's the scale that we're used to dealing with. This thing though, he's big, and bigger than what we're used to. We haven't quite come up with a plan to take him out yet." "Him? How do you know it's a him? And what do you mean that there are more of them?" My head was beginning to hurt. This was just all too much to take in. "Oh, you can tell that it's a him if you get close enough to where he's positioned, trust me." He chuckled. Was this also normal that he could joke about it? "So what do you mean by there are more? How have people not heard about these things by now?" "We're very good at our jobs, usually, anyway. There's typically some collateral damage from the larger ones, but most are small and can be taken out with little notice from the outside world. I've guaranteed that you've heard about some of the larger ones. Chernobyl, the San Francisco earthquake, the LA riots were quite nasty. That one had a profound effect on the surrounding population. So why am I just seeing this right now? How come I haven't heard about it before?" My head was really pounding now. Hell, I'm 26 years old. I would have noticed these monsters by now. It seems that this is just the first one both large enough and near enough to catch your attention. No other explanation I can think of, really. Like I said, they're usually much smaller than what we're dealing with right now. But you said that you can take care of these things. Like you make sure that they don't cause too much damage, then you can kill them? I didn't give a shit what he told me at this point. I just wanted to know if we could get rid of these things so it would stop staring at me. I could still feel its gaze even though we were underground. Well, we can't necessarily kill them, but we can send them back to where they came from. You see, the aberrations are from Earth, just not our Earth. On occasion, the walls between our dimensions tear, so to speak. This allows these things to slip through and cause havoc. The thing is, we never know what to expect because there are so many different variables. So you're telling me that giant thing in the sky is from Dimension X or something? This was a lot to take in just one day. Holy shit, I need a nap. The one outside is actually from Dimension 426-9. The first one we've encountered from that dimension. Seems like quite the nasty place from what one of my colleagues had told me. One of the others like me, I asked. All of this aberration stuff was interesting, but I wanted to know who else could see these things. Somebody I can talk to that actually knows how insane all of this is. Yes, we currently have 3 other cognizants working with us. You will get to meet them soon enough, if you choose to join us. It depends. What's the pay like and is there health insurance? I quipped back at him. I want answers, not some vague offers and sci-fi names. I'm sure you're being sarcastic, but yes, we do offer a hefty pay. Dental coverage too, if that interests you. Anyway, time is somewhat of the essence here. You are a cognizant, someone who possesses the ability to see the aberration. With some honing of your ability, you can eventually see into the other dimensions as well. So we're special then. Very. And as I said, only about 1% of the population has this ability, and most of them go mad from it at a young age. It frequently gets misconstrued as a myriad of mental illnesses, and sometimes what they see is so horrible that it just breaks them outright. There have been quite a few that put their abilities to good use for personal gain though. And you want to recruit me. We would like your assistance, yes. If we have more cognizants on hand, we can find aberrations quicker. Have you all in different locations keeping an eye on things. We will do all the heavy lifting when it comes to getting rid of the ones that appear. We just need you to be our canary, so to speak. It doesn't sound like too dangerous of a job. I still wasn't sure though. I kept expecting to wake up any second and have all of this be a dream. But the cold air in the room and feeling the aberration's gaze shooting through the ground to me made it all too real. I must warn you though, you will see some horrible things. Creatures that look like us but can tear through you with a snap of their fingers. Lovecraftian nightmares. Creatures much uglier than our friend in the sky. And this will drain you. His tone was much more serious now, and we were reaching the end. Look, if I can get that giant asshole up there to go away, I'll do whatever I can. Besides, this might actually be a nice change of pace. And keep a lookout for any weird happenings and get paid for it. Sounds good to me. Very well. Our agents here will escort you back home. Here's a card with my number. And please keep an eye out on our friend up there for now and just study him. This is a tall order for your first case, but I guarantee that you will learn quite a bit from it. You'll also be subject to regular psych evaluations, and we will contact you when we get everything processed. So, I'm a monster hunter now? More of a monster surveyor, if you will. I got up and I followed the agents back to the elevator and up to the surface. When we stepped out of the shack, Big Guy was still there, watching me. All of his eyes followed as I walked over to the car. and they kept following us as they drove me back home. Things were going to get very interesting. I didn't realize just how much more awful the aberrations could be. I know it's been a while since the last update. Things have been, well, awful to be honest. The bright side is the big guy is gone. No idea how they did it, but he was sent back to whatever hellhole that he came from. Ronald tried to explain it to me, but it was really just a bunch of babble, quantum physics and all that stuff. But now though, I'll take the big eyes in the sky any day over the things that I've seen and learned these past few days. I've met with the other cognizants and they told me some of what I should expect out of this. And they gave me some files about past aberrations and some of the ones that they'd seen for themselves. It turns out some pretty famous people were like this. Lovecraft? All that shit he wrote about was from personal experience. It turns out there really is another dimension beyond ours that's ruled by giant monsters called the Eldritch. Thankfully, none have passed through though. He just looked into their dimension. As for some of the worst events in history, also aberrations. The San Francisco fire was caused by an aberration made of pure flame coming through the rift one night. Chernobyl was a creature that fed off of radiation. And there is so much more. It's just all a lot to take in. As far as my own personal experience, I've been learning to look into the other worlds that are out there. Most actually aren't that bad. Worlds just like ours but with slight differences. The others though, there are few and far between, but they're made up of some of the most terrifying shit that I've ever seen. So, things had been pretty quiet in our world until a week ago. Another thing that the administration provided me with was a satellite link so I could view different areas of the world through satellite feeds and get access to almost any camera. I was watching a feed from Florida when I saw that there was a hurricane forming off the coast. Looking further at one of the storm cams, I noticed that there was something off in the water. It seemed big, and that's putting it simply. And then when the lightning flashed in the middle of the storm, I saw it. It was a giant. Not quite as big as Eyes was, but at least big enough to level a small city. It looked like it was in the center of the storm. I zoomed in, hoping to get a better look. It looked to be made out of pure darkness, with tendrils popping out in every direction. I saw a storm chaser plane flying close to it and my stomach fell out. One of the tendrils snapped out like lightning, piercing straight through the plane. It went down into the water. I picked up my phone and I dialed Ronald's number. "We have a problem off the coast of Florida. The creature in the middle of a giant hurricane. It looks like a giant black hole, but it took a storm chaser plane down."
"We're on it,"
he said.
"There is something that you should know though. The other three have been noticing much heavier activity the past few days. There seems to be an increase in aberrations."
"Great, just what I need," I said, sighing. "Will you guys be able to take care of this thing? If it's in Florida, that's one state too close to me."
"We're stretched a little thin at the moment, but it will be taken care of,"
he said, and the line went dead then. I guess there wasn't much time to talk. I decided to see what he meant by heavier activity. I pulled up the log where we all recorded our findings. There had been a lot more entries in the past 3 days than in the past 2 weeks combined. This wasn't good. I scrolled through, seeing some of what we were dealing with. Victoria had apparently seen a massive ram with 8 horns storming through the hills in Scotland. Greg caught a guy in the middle of Atlanta that was disintegrating anything that he touched. All small things, thankfully, nothing too big until this hurricane. I decided to turn in for the night. There wasn't much else to do at the moment and nothing could be done about the hurricane. I'm sure they would have it taken care of by the morning. Everything went smoothly the next day. The hurricane was gone and the tendrils disappeared. Seemed to be much slower. I actually managed to go a whole day without spotting anything. That night, I got woken up by my phone ringing. I saw that it was Ronald. I groggily answered, still half asleep. Yeah, I said.
Look outside and tell me what you see.
Okay, let me put some pants on real quick.
No time, go, now.
He pressed. Shit, this must be bad. I walked downstairs and out to my front door. It was bright, way too bright to be this early in the morning. What the hell? Oh shit, I said as I looked into the sky. This is bad. This is way worse than eyes.
What is it?
Ronald shouted through the phone.
Tell me.
The whole sky is torn open. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I described everything to Ronald as I saw it. Up above me, there was a tear running across the entire sky. And through it, there were hands reaching through, clawing at the night. These were huge hands, each one at least the size of a car, with large claws and 7 fingers on each. As they clawed, the tear grew. And behind the massive hands, light was pouring through. The light was almost a pure red color, like that of a sun close up. Ronald, I said, I think hell just opened up above us.
Look, I need you to keep your shit together. We're working on closing this one, but we're still recovering from the last few aberrations. We have a team on the way to assess the situation. Keep an eye out to make sure nothing else happens.
You better hurry. They're tearing it even more as we speak. The hands multiplied, more and more reaching through as the tear grew wider. I finally saw one of the creatures that the hands belonged to, as it fought its way out of the mass. It looked well. There's no good comparison to what it looked like. It was big, at least the sky of a small skyscraper. The limbs were long, spindly, but looked muscled. It had a long torso with a slim lower half, and it steadily got wider as it reached the top where I'm guessing its lungs were. And the heads were the worst part. It had 4 heads, at least. I think they were all heads. One of them was a giant mass of sharp teeth, black as space, and one was a giant glowing red orb. I realized with horror that this was where all the light was coming from, all of these glowing orbs on each of these creatures. The other 2 heads worked in unison, large tentacles branching off from each, almost like they were feeling the area around them. It fell slowly to the ground, and when it finally landed, I could see it standing up on the other side of town, towering over everything else in the area. It started moving, at first seeming to check out its surroundings, and then slowly lowering the tentacled heads down and running them over the ground. I saw it pick up a car and hold it up to the orb. As it held it close, the car began melting. After it was softened, it lowered it into its maw of teeth. I looked up at the tear, widening as more of its kind started clambering out of it. That's when it let out a sound that will haunt me until I die. It was like an explosion mixed with the screams of 1,000 dying people. As it roared, the clamoring at the tear began more frenzied. It finished, and it started walking my way. The creature was moving straight for me, every step bringing it at least 100 feet closer. The red orb that was one of its heads glowed brighter as it came closer. It was like it could sense me. I jumped in my car and I called Ronald. "You guys need to get a handle on this, now!" I screamed into the phone. "This thing is after me and there are more like it coming down every second."
Shit,
he said.
I have a team en route to you right now. Just stay where you are.
"I'm getting the hell out of here unless your team can be here within 2 minutes. The creature is huge and it knows where I am. It's gonna be on top of me in at least 5 minutes. I already saw what it could do to a car and I'm not fond of having that happen to me."
Hell, okay. Do you have a list of the safe houses with you?
He asked. Yeah, I'm going to the closest one. I'm only about 15 minutes away. Hopefully my car can outrun this thing.
Good, we'll be in touch.
I have to move, quick. The thing was still stomping towards me. I could see light poles and cars crushed under its feet in the distance. The orb continued to get brighter. Above me, more continued to fall from the tear in the sky. It began to rain at that point, wind howling. It still didn't faze the creature. Everybody else probably just thought that it was some freak storm tearing everything down. I got in the car and I squealed out of my driveway. The safe house was a few miles out of town, in an abandoned convenience store off the highway. I just had to get there and push the code on the back door to take me a mile underground into the bunker. I got to the edge of town, a little over a mile to go when one of those things fell from the sky right in front of me. I didn't see it coming until it was too late, but its front left foot landed right on the hood of my car. I jolted forward and I hit my head on the steering wheel. I was dazed. Everything blurred and I felt warm blood dripping from my forehead into my eyes. This is bad. This is really, really bad. I vaguely saw one of the tentacles wrap around what was left of my car and pick it up with me still in it. I had to act fast. I reached down and I unclipped my seatbelt, and at the same time shoving the car door open. I rolled out as the car was turned over and lifted into the air. Damn it, I've got to go. I rolled over and I got to my feet. Everything hurt and I could feel my heart beating into my throat. I started trying to run, but dang, it hurt. I probably had a couple of broken ribs, maybe a concussion. I'm amazed that I'm still able to walk. The creature let out a roar as it brought my car up to the orb. I assume that it's an eye. The car started to melt as the howl of rage got louder. I looked up as I ran and I saw more falling to the sky, even faster than before. They were coming down by the dozens now. My phone rang in my pocket. I was still trying to run from the monster and right now it was right above me. Even if I survive this, I'm not sure if the world will. I dug my phone out as I continued running. A little busy right now. Please tell me you've got some good news.
Where are you? Our other cognizants have reports of these things falling near them as well.
Ronald said. I could hear fear in his voice. This might be where it all ends.
Where are you now?
I'm on the side of 17. One of these monsters dropped right in front of my car and wrecked it. I'm probably a mile out from the bunker.
Good. I have 2 agents a mile behind you. Find a safe place to hide until they get there and they can take you the rest of the way.
I don't think that you're understanding me right now. This thing is on the damn road. I don't think that they'll get through.
They will. Just hide until then.
And he hung up at that. Shit. I don't even know how I'm supposed to hide. If they're a mile up the road, then hopefully that means 3 minutes max. Now isn't the time for them to be careful drivers. My best bet right now is just to run and dodge until they get here. The orb swiveled around and I swear that it looked right at me. The head with the mouth moved down towards me, extending on the neck as it came down towards me, almost bending completely backwards to reach where I was underneath it. While it was doing that, one of the tentacled heads reached around from the side, like it was trying to close me in. I closed my eyes and I hoped for time to just stop right there, for the tear to disappear and this damn thing to vanish. I had a flash of the dimension that it came from. The landscape was leveled. Where buildings once stood, there was now just ruins. These things overran the land, devouring anything that they can find. They seemed to move off of some sort of hive mind, all going towards the same goal. They were hungry and we were the next buffet. I snapped out of it and I faced down the mall in front of me. I couldn't run to the right because of the tentacles, and the highway barrier was on my left. Nowhere to go but behind me, and even then, I didn't know how fast those teeth would move. I had to do something. I closed my eyes, greeting myself for what was about to happen. And when I opened them, I almost gasped. The creature was gone and disappeared into thin air. In front of me was one of the agents who had picked me up when I first saw the big guy, and he was holding some device that looked sort of like a projector. "Get in," he said, nodding back towards the car. I didn't question it, but I ran over and I got into the back seat. "So that's how you guys get rid of the aberrations?" I asked. "Yes and no. Just one of these can work for a smaller scale aberration. I'm still no clue how we're going to fix the tear though. Our number one priority is getting you to safety and treating your wounds." We drove the rest of the way to the convenience store, and I watched as more and more fell from the tear in the sky as we drove. There had to have been hundreds by now. Who knows how widespread they could be. They parked outside and rushed me in. We took the elevator past the door and went the mile down to the bunker in almost 10 seconds. I swear, I almost hit the ceiling when it went down. We stepped out into a brightly lit room, all white walls with a couch and small kitchen on one side, and a bed on the other. Against the far wall was a ham radio and a small television. "All right, here, you're obviously pretty banged up. Take this for pain and lie down. We'll keep you updated as things go on. One of us will be on duty constantly to monitor the situation," he said as he handed me a couple of pills. "How are you guys going to know what the hell is going on if I'm not up there?" "Ronald is coming up with a contingency plan, and we have the other cognizants keeping an eye on things. Just rest for now and we'll take care of the big stuff. The priority for you is resting. It won't matter what you can see if you're dead." I didn't like it, but I didn't have much other choice. I took the pills and I swallowed them, and then I laid down carefully on the bed. Now that the adrenaline was wearing off, I felt every injury. Definitely broken ribs, possibly a dislocated shoulder. There was a nice gash across my left leg too. The stuff they gave me was better than anything a doctor could prescribe though. I drifted off in no time. When I woke up, the other agent was sitting at the desk, talking over the radio. "What's going on?" I asked, sitting up way too quickly and feeling the sting in my chest. "Easy there," he said, looking over to me. "We have it all under control. Some of the guys in the tech department figured out how to close the tear, and now we're just rounding up all the ones that fell. You're gonna stay down here for a few days while you recover." "How the hell?" I said. "There's no way. This looked like the apocalypse and somehow we managed to completely avoid it." "No promises it's a permanent solution, so we're keeping an eye on everything. We have your camera array set up down here so you can monitor and report as needed." I still couldn't believe it. There was no way this could have been done with so quickly. And that's when the ground started to shake. "What the hell is that?" the agent shouted, looking towards the door. The ham radio crackled.
Be alert. One of the strays is still after the cognizant. They are fixed above your bunker.
Jesus. The gosh dang things are still trying to hunt us down even though they've been closed off from the rest. The ground shook again and I heard a loud crash from behind the steel door that led to the elevator. "Shit, that's bad," the agent said. He pulled up a camera on the TV. The satellite feed zoomed down on our location, showing a blaze beginning where the convenience store was. Now there was rubble. I knew he couldn't see it, but I could. One of the aberrations was above us, thrashing around at the store. It had found where the elevator shaft was and it was battering it, trying to dig deeper. The noise that we heard was the elevator car dropping the mile downwards. So, now it's a day later and I'm writing this all out. Some agents finally showed up, flashed one of those projector things at it and got it to go away. I saw one of them get picked up by it first though. It picked it up with a tentacle and brought it close to the orb. I can still see the man's face as he looked up at the sky, clearly in the camera. I think he saw eternity. He was put into the maw a moment later, a geyser of blood pouring out. And that's when the aberration vanished, leaving only the rain of blood and rubble as the reminder that it had been here. We're waiting for rescue now, but it's an iffy situation. Being a mile under the earth makes it bad, but the elevator crash made the structure unsound. They have to move carefully or one wrong move could bring this whole place crashing down. So, this may be where it ends. I'll keep looking for aberrations until I either die or get the hell out of here. All of you should know though, there are things coming into this world that don't belong here. We narrowly avoided the apocalypse yesterday. There's no guarantee that we'll be this lucky next time.